Robert Tellis gave his first interview after the verdict was given of guilty, so we are going to go ahead and watch it.
For meeting with us. I know that we have limited time, so I wanted to start with this. You were convicted of first-degree murder 2 days ago. Do you have a message for Jeff Garriman's family?
Yes, sir. Again, I am very sorry for their loss. It's tragic. He was clearly a good man who made a difference in the community and a difference in his family, but they certainly have my condolences, but I'm not guilty. I am innocent of his murder.
A jury of 12. You're a former attorney. You helped select this jury. You say that they got it wrong?
I do. Yes, sir.
Why is that?
Obviously, there was a lot of evidence in, I think, every different direction. I think one of the important things that the jury did not focus on was the fact that, as was heard earlier during the trial, that at 8:50 a.m. I was at home.
So he starts off by saying that the jury made the wrong decision and that there was a lot of evidence. But really, there was only a lot of evidence from the state prosecutors. They had concrete proof. What Tellis ended up doing on the stand was just really saying his opinion and telling a story. There was not any concrete proof from him that it wasn't him. So it's hard for me to hear that he's saying there was so much evidence on his side because there really wasn't.
Texting with one of my kids. I did not leave home. And at 9:10, this SUV that looks very similar to my SUV pulls into my neighborhood while I'm still at home, then drives out 2 minutes later, follows the path to Mr. Gurman's home, murders Mr. Gurman, and then makes its way back toward my home.
Well, let's talk about that because prosecutors pointed to the text message that was on your wife's watch and not your cell phone. She was trying to get a hold of you. So where were you?
Again, as I testified, I had taken a walk. And when I came back home, I just walked in the door. I yelled up that I'm home, and that was it. I mentioned, too, that if I hadn't, then certainly she would have texted and called further. Right, so the fact that there was just the one call and text within a couple minutes of each other shows that, again, there was no concern that I was not yet home or anything like that.
Why frame you? Because you believe that you're being framed, right? Being framed by who and why? Why not just kill you?
Right, and then again, that was something that I addressed on the stand as well. So I believe that Compass Realty, I want to do my investigation on this, but I was able to prove it, but I believe Compass Realty framed me to stop me from investigating them. And so when you think about this question about, well, why not kill you instead, again, killing me wouldn't have stopped the investigations into them and maybe even bolstered those investigations.
So his excuse or reasoning for Compass Realty not killing him is just to frame him because that would remove him from the picture of them getting looked into criminally wise. But how would that at all fit into Jeff Gurman's death? Because he was a nobody to them and not like he was a friend or well acquainted to Robert. So it really just doesn't make sense. I mean, I understand that Jeff had written several articles about Tellis, but it still doesn't mean that they would do something to him if they were trying to prompt the police to shut up Tellis. So I don't really get how he's trying to combine all of that and say how that would work.
When people try to figure out why I was killed, or perhaps the investigations were picked up in my memory and worked on harder. But again, like I said, because now that Mr. Gurman's been murdered and I was framed for it, Compass Realty gets away with, not having to answer to any of the criminal conduct that they've engaged in. And also the real estate division complaint that I had filed against them, that got dropped after I got put in jail. It certainly is serendipity for them if, as a result of my supposedly killing Mr. Gurman, that they get to walk away without any repercussions for their criminal conduct.
I heard you take the stand, and I was there in court each and every day. You were there on the stand for a duration over 3 days, and you mentioned that on the stand. Why did you want to take the stand? If you did it again, over again, would you? Because the jury didn't seem to believe what you had to say in your narrative.
Yeah, I would do it again. I don't know that it's necessarily that my testimony had a negative impact. I think perhaps had we highlighted again a little harder the inconsistencies with the evidence, that perhaps they would have seen the truth. I don't know that my testimony had a negative impact. In fact, I think it, at the very least, the public got to hear my story.
For me, his testimony wasn't a negative impact. It was more of like a neutral. I think the most impactful thing about the fact that he took the stand was his lawyer saying that he wanted to tell you his story. And just the choice words of the lawyer before and after Tellis was on the stand makes red flags of just that he had a feeling that Tellis was lying, and he couldn't participate in that by asking him questions or anything, so it had to be done narrative-wise. I definitely think that hurt him. While they're not jurors, they can decide whether or not this is all true, but I'm innocent, and so I guess that's bottom line for me.
So who killed Jeff Gehrman then?
Like I said, I believe it is someone who was hired by Compass Realty.
And what steps are you going to do moving forward if you say that you're an innocent man behind bars, you're yet to be sentenced, you're yet to be moved to prison? What's next for you then?
So right now I'm working on my appeals. I do believe that I will get out early on appeal. So I'm working on that right now.
I don't think that there's any way with his appeals that he is going to be getting out of jail sooner. That's twice now he said getting out sooner, and when he gets out, there is a very good chance that he's never getting out of jail. And he doesn't even know if he'll have parole, so he won't even know that until sentencing. So to sound optimistic to get out sooner is really not ideal on his part.
As far as any investigations that I'd hope to complete, unfortunately, I won't be able to do them from here. If there's enough time when I get out, such that all the evidence hasn't, basically aged, I guess, I don't know if it's aged out, but, if there's still yet evidence remaining by the time I get out, then great, then I will continue to pursue those investigations when I get out.
When do you think that you're going to be getting out? When do you think you're going to be getting out? You've been convicted of first-degree murder. You're going to be sentenced, and the possibility is after serving 20 years, parole, but you're unlikely to get parole unless you take responsibility for the actions that you've been convicted of.
So, in fact, it's going to be longer than 20 years. There are enhancements, so I'll be looking at probably 28 years. But again, it is my belief that, and I'm going to continue working on this, that I'll be able to get back to my family sooner through appeals. That's my main concern is getting back home to my family.
Let's talk about that, because in the mitigation, you had 3 witnesses that were on the stand in your defense. It was your wife, your ex-wife, and your mom. And you broke down in tears when your mom was on the stand, pleading on your behalf for parole. And they were all characterizing you as a family man, but I hadn't seen your family in court supporting you during the trial.
I didn't want them there. And because of all the media, you got to understand that my family, they love me. I talk to them all the time. As you heard, I talk to my kids all the time. I expressly did not want them during the proceedings, because I didn't want them to suffer from all of this. That's been my main concern all along. So, yeah, they didn't show up because I asked them not to. I wanted to protect them from this situation.
Why did you cry when your mom was testifying on your behalf? And, you know, according to our viewers and people that have watched your trial, they didn't see much emotion from you whenever there were pictures of Mr. Gehrman or when his family was on the stand. Why is that?
I don't know that, I certainly felt for them. I don't know if my face, demonstrated or not, but I definitely felt for the family during their testimony. And I certainly, this has certainly been frustrating for me, but you got to understand that, I had to try to just prove my innocence to show the jury that, again, I am a family man. I am somebody who could not possibly have committed this murder. So that was my main goal during the trial, was to just to convey them and to show them the evidence, that I had seen that shows that this is, that I did not commit this murder. So, I'm sorry if it came off as though I didn't have emotion, but I thought I certainly conveyed it,
And on that same regard, viewers online, people love to weigh in on what they're watching at specific times, but a lot of people didn't believe that there was emotion on the stand when you appeared to be crying. Were you crying, and why?
And that wasn't for show. That just was not for show. This is not something that I planned. Basically, when I was talking about the fact that I was basically tortured, mentally, during this period where they detained me during the search, and I was already just about broken because they were talking about my family and what this was going to do to my family, and they had already put me in this paper suit in this freezing environment, and by the time I walked into my house, it was a tornado. They trashed my children's rooms, they trashed my entire house, and my wife was sitting on the floor crying, and so I cried on the stand, and it wasn't for show. It wasn't me trying to gain any sympathy. I cried. And there were tears. My face was wet, but it wasn't for public consumption. It wasn't for the jury's sake. That's just something that came out. So if it looked unbelievable, then so be it. Because it wasn't meant to be an act. It wasn't meant to be something to sway anybody.
And speaking of that jury, they were out for roughly 12 hours over 3 days, and they asked to see certain videos. One of the videos was what your defense team had pointed out, with what they say was hair on the driver of the suspect in a vehicle. And then the second was a comparison side by side of you walking with the AP article of you in your office from that Gehrman interview, and also video of the suspect. And a lot of people say that it's the same walk, that you have the same walk as the suspect. You say that it's not? Do you see the similarities?
I don't agree, but everyone's entitled to their opinion, but no, I don't agree.
And they were asking for those pieces of evidence.
I don't know. I was still hopeful, that they would see my innocence, but that was about it.
When the jury came back and we were all waiting, and then they asked you to stand at that defense table and they read the verdict, what went through your mind then?
That unfortunately they got it wrong, and that it's time to continue on with my work and try to get home.
I know that you say that you believe that they got it wrong. Again, I want to circle back to how are you going to continue your investigation and to prove your innocence, since you really believe that, while behind bars, while in prison?
I think there are potentially a couple different ways, and we'll see whether or not they pan out. Currently, there's a lawsuit that between me and some of the folks in the office where I could potentially get some of the discovery that would connect some of the players, and then there's a lawsuit that I've filed against certain officers that may net some of the information that I need. But we'll see about that particular lawsuit. I know they're going to try to dismiss it now with a conviction, but that again could take years by the time we get to the point where I can get anything to demonstrate more of what is going on here.
You were convicted less than 48 hours ago. Why is it important for you to speak out now? You have not been sentenced yet. And if you're going to be asking for an appeal, anything you say right now can be used against you. You know that.
Right. Well, and then again, obviously I'm here because, folks like yourself wanted to speak to me. And certainly, like I said, I'm innocent. And, if my standing up and continuing to declare my innocence is going to hurt my chances for an appeal, then so be it. But I should certainly hope not. I should hope that my declaring my innocence should not be, reason for any judge to be punitive, for any judge to decide that they're going to put me away for longer, or they're going to deny my appeal. So we'll certainly see whether there is any kind of repercussion for me continuing to say that I'm innocent. And if it is, it's wrong. But we'll see.
How did the DNA get under the victim's fingernails, and that was your DNA?
That, again, I don't know, sir. Because then, like I said, I don't know that I was ever under his fingernails. I did not kill Mr. Gurman. I know that's what, they say that my DNA was under his nails, but I don't know how that may have occurred.
Why were the shoes cut up underneath your couch?
I don't know. I'm wondering the same thing. If supposedly I was the person who committed this crime, why not just throw those things away? It makes no sense to cut up shoes.
And the same would be, why cut up a hat? And why get rid of other items? According to prosecutors and according to your conviction, this jury believes you killed Mr. Gehrman, you came home, you cut up the shoes, you cut up the hat, but then you got rid of other items, including the orange shirt, the pants, and the murder weapon. How did those items still get in your home if they're trying to frame you? Where is the murder weapon?
And again, so just what you're saying makes no sense, right? I mean, if I were the killer and I got rid of some of the items, why wouldn't I get rid of all of the items at once? It makes no sense. And then on top of that, the alleged hiding places for these items, one was under my couch, and then another was an open toolbox. Again, it just doesn't make any sense.
If you believe that the jury got it wrong and you are still innocent, what is your message to that jury then? They vested so much time and did their civil duty. What's your message to the jury?
Yeah, I appreciate that they felt they did their duty, but they got it wrong. But again, beyond that, there's not much else I can say. I'm focused on trying to prove my innocence and trying to get home.
Did you kill Jeff Gehrman?
I did not, sir, no.
Yes, why?
And again, your message to his family.
And I am very sorry for their loss. We've all been through a lot with this situation. And I'm hoping that, that they too can, when they move on, and it's a horrible, horrible situation all around. We're all suffering for it.
Why did your team decide to go with the narrative versus you being asked questions on the stand?
And also, if it was question and answer form with his own lawyer, the lawyer, if he knew that he was lying or thought he was lying, the lawyer could get in legal trouble and possibly lose his license. So this was the only way to move forward.
It appeared to me that the jury was never given an explanation for that, and that's what juries expect. They expect the defense team to ask questions. Why did you choose narrative?
Well, I chose a narrative style just because, again, I had so much to say that it would have been so difficult for us to get through it all if we were doing it in a question and answer form. Just like in any, and again, I'm not testifying as an expert witness, but oftentimes when an expert witness testifies, they're given a question and they'll elaborate quite a bit on that one particular question. I had so many particular questions that I wanted to answer that for us to do it in a question and answer form would have just been so tedious. I think we would have lost the jury well before we got halfway through my testimony. So that's why it was a narrative.
Is there anything that you wish you had said that you think could have changed your trial?
I think if perhaps I thought we made it clear that I was home when that SUV drove into my neighborhood. If it was not, maybe I wish I would have hammered on that more to just say, hey, look, I cannot be in two places at once, so you got to consider that. I was at home. So I think that would have been pretty definitive as far as, evidence goes that I'm innocent. But beyond that, I think we did what we could.
Prosecutors say that you were not home, that your cell phone was home, and that's the reason why your wife was wondering where you were.
If you recall, again, their own expert testified that at 8:50 a.m. I was using my phone, texting. And again, at 9, so at home at 8:50, texting, and then this SUV comes into my neighborhood at 9:10. So even their evidence shows the same. Like I said, that's what I needed to hammer on more, I think, and perhaps that got lost in all the shuffle of all this evidence, I think.
Is there any other evidence that you had hoped that the jury would see that you think could have changed the outcome?
I think a bit more of the evidence regarding motivations behind Detective Jappy's actions would have perhaps demonstrated that Detective Jappy was not just doing his job.
So there we are. He is going to be trying to get a retrial coming up, and I would think that he will get it. It will be interesting to see if he keeps the same lawyers or if he's going to move forward being his own lawyer again.